I want to talk about something a little esoteric, but I think the concept is important for us to ponder, to think, to elaborate on, and to dig into, to see what we can really discern. The world often sees light and darkness as the contrast of good and evil. Even parts of the Bible can seem like they're expressing this. Ancient people felt that way. They saw evil spirits in the dark, bad things to be avoided, and they often would not go out at night into the dark for fear. But in Genesis, God does not label darkness as bad. It's the lack of light, lack of coherence, lack of understanding, lack of grasping. And God, we need to remember, begins creation by first creating light, bringing God's presence into all of creation. For that is what comes from God, the light to illumine the world. Problems arise if we stick with the good and evil polarity view. The Inquisition of the church came about in part because of that, separating those who were true to the one Catholic faith to those who were not, and they were labeled as evil or bad unless they repented. Others can be identified as the dark, especially those who we do not know. That is, when we cannot see or understand, we attribute it to the dark. And we often label that dark evil. And yet, that's not what God has said and does not say with Jesus. The idea is the metaphor to bring what understanding and truth and God's presence is really about. Many modern theologians, Thomas Merton, Howard Thurman, Richard Rohr, Paul Tillich, among others, often talk about that we need to understand the unity of all, that all of creation is of God. In that sense, there is light somewhere, or at least there's light that can be brought in to illuminate darkness, to help us to see, to understand. The distinction is order instead of chaos, visibility instead of obscurity, life instead of barrenness, the rhythm of time. Paul Tillich talks about that sin is the separation from God. That means the need for light to illuminate us in order that we can be connected to God. That sin is simply when we're not in touch with God and rely simply on our own decisions and self-interest in terms of what we do. That may not lead us right. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Your light is a lamp unto my feet, says Psalm 27. Jesus said, I am the light of the world, in John 8. Carl Jung brings an interesting and important engagement with the darkness. Jung talked about getting in touch with that shadow, that dark part of ourselves, not repressing it, not pushing it down, not running from it, not avoiding it, but to engage it and come to terms with it. I often smile when I would read the headlines that some televangelist had run off with the woman in the choir or another member, or had been found out engaging in out-of-wedlock sex. That's what happens when you repress the shadow. You claim it's not there. You claim that you only want that which is of God. That's fine, but not if you're unwilling to use that light for what it's meant for, to bring your understanding deeper, to pull you closer to God into those dark spaces. God brings us light into confusion, fragmentation. God's light is not simply brightness, but discernment that creates relationships, justice, truth, and life itself. That which we do not know or understand, darkness or unknown, is labeled evil, brings about racism and that awful distinction between us and them, those other people. And what we're really talking about is who we do not know or seem strange to us. They have a different kind of custom or religion or way of being. And therefore, that unknown we label evil when it is not. We need darkness. How are we to see the stars in the heavens if we do not have darkness, or the moon shining brightly? The sun is not to be looked straight into, and the sun is not everything. Brightness is not everything. No, what we are to do is to use that light, like starlight, to bring into our souls. Jesus is bringing light as a metaphor for transformation, for the ability to connect with God's presence. And free will means we need to choose. Illumination, seeking spiritual light, to understand that God is in all, and it's one glorious unity, and that God's presence is everywhere. We seek spiritual light, reconciliation, giving up that we are alone, and sensing we are part of the wholeness of God. Psalm 139 says it brilliantly. Even darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as day, for darkness is as light to you. We need at times to go into that darkness of ourselves that maybe scares us a little. It's not known. And I promise you, if you go into it with some quietness and reflection and openness, you will find in that light, in that darkness, light, God's light, the light that is important, the light that illumines and brings God's mercy and grace to us all. Amen.